Hey everyone, this is Lane. Thanks for listening to the first episode of Impromptu Fiction with Lane and Friends. I do want to give a little disclaimer before the episode starts. Pacific's audio is a little off in this, and I cannot say whether it was something on his end or something on mine. It is probably something on my end that I didn't fix until it was too late. So, just fair warning, hopefully I fixed it enough to where it's pleasant to listen to, but just sorry, still trying to get the hang of everything over here, trying to get everything sounding right and good. So that was it, thank you, and enjoy. Hello everyone and welcome to Impromptu Fiction with Lane and Friends, your new favorite improvisational podcast. I'm Lane and we'll be getting to our friend in just a moment, but before we do, I have a little advertisement I'd like to read for you from our very first sponsor. Since the dawn of man, we have been searching for not only fashionable clothing, but clothing we can eat. Chocolate trousers? Forget that shit. Sushi snuggies? More like nah. Archibald Dunlap has the solution for you with his patented meat slacks. That's right, have the confidence of knowing you look fashionable while also having the confidence that you won't go hungry. Archibald Dunlap's wearable meat slacks is just the thing for you. Meat slacks! Hide your junk in our lovely meaty chunks. Now with that out of the way, let me explain the rules of the show. I've given my guests a random writing prompt that they have to write a stream of conscious story from. If I want to throw a real curveball in there, I'll force my writers to compose their story in a particular style. My writers and myself are not allowed to edit or rewrite our stories. Once we have both written something slightly legible, we get together and read our stories to each other for the very first time. It's that simple, and it's that hectic. And for tonight, our very first friend, our very first best friend, is none other than Late Clarity's own Pacific Obadiah. Hey Pacific, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. We're gonna pretend that the first 40 minutes of this recording wasn't me just fucking up.
What, 40 minutes? What? This is the first time I've heard your voice in this day or year.
In this particular time, this is the first time I'm hearing your voice, Senator.
Absolutely. There have been no mistakes whatsoever.
Absolutely not, especially not 5 minutes ago. That's the beauty of podcast magic. All right, All right, so before we begin with our stories, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Pacific.
So I do stuff sometimes.
I would hope so.
Yeah. As Lane said, I make Late Clarity. We just wrapped our first season 3 months ago, so I guess we didn't just wrap it, but we're just about to start season 2 in another month or two. So I guess we're not just about to start, but we're getting there.
You're really bad at, placing things in a matter of time.
Look, man, time has numbers, and numbers mean math, and I'm an English major, so math is hard.
Damn straight. Okay. You and I are on the same wavelength.
Yeah. But yeah, aside from Lake Clarity, I, edit other shows like Creepy, and I've done some work for Liberty, Tales from the Tower, and
okay.
Some other stuff. It's out there.
So you officially do more work than I do?
I procrastinate.
Yeah, okay. So now what you're saying is not only do you do more work than me, but you're also a procrastinator like me.
Absolutely.
If you'll excuse me, everybody, I'm gonna go hide in my blanket right now. This is the first other project I've done in a long time, and even trying to do this, I was like, I don't know. I know he said he's gonna call at 8:30, but I don't really have to do any work. That's why I didn't write down the fucking intro before we got on. I was like, it doesn't matter, I got it.
Yep, so, okay. You said you're about to curl up in a blanket. That's, is that a sushi snuggie?
No, I don't. I am now not legally allowed to own a sushi snuggie. Because of Archibald Dunlap's wearable meat slacks. I was about to say slacks. That's one of those jokes where it was like I was driving in my car from work and I busted out laughing, and halfway through I had the realization, like, I'm an idiot.
It's art, Lane, is what it is.
Don't
ever disparage
That's
art.
what I keep telling my mom. No, it's art. See, it's like a phrase that rolls off the tongue. That's why it's funny.
Right.
Please respect me for what I do. I went to college, folks. It's okay. Cool. I dropped out.
There you go. Cool. I still have 2 more years, so who knows what'll happen. Might drop out.
Yeah, do it. Do it.
Who knows? Obviously, I'll start a thriving career off of podcasts because,
of course, that's what
Lane,
yes,
they're a gold mine. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So much money.
Little known fact, internet. Let me sit down in my seat backwards because this is how serious we're gonna get. Forget high school, forget middle school. I don't know how old you are listening to this show. I don't judge. Just forget school. Just forget learning. Podcasts is where it's at. We are I'll give you a little secret. We are only the 4th podcast in existence.
Absolutely.
There is where we are right now is the ground floor. It only goes up.
Yep.
As I cry into my bowl of ramen.
Oh man. Yeah, I had some cereal around here. I don't know where it went.
Tonight I spoiled myself with Little Caesars pizza because I felt like being a fancy boy.
Oh, quite fancy.
Right, cool. Let's actually get to the show. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Okay, so yeah, that's what I'm always talking about. The writing prompt for this episode was, I believe, there was a door locked in your house for an X amount of years, and your grandfather just opened it. And because I thought that prompt was too simple, for some reason, I decided to throw in the curveball that we had to write our stories as if it was a 80s dystopian future kind of story. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret right now. I barely did that.
Mine came out very interesting.
Mine did too. I don't know if it's good. This is the first time, like, most of the time when I write, I'm either like, okay, this is good or this is bad. This one, I'm like, I don't know. It could go either way. Yeah.
Lots of gray areas.
But here. Hey, that's the point of the show, though. We're not trying to make the next great American novel. We're just trying to make something that, like, strings sentences together in some sort of way.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I wrote about like 2,000 words into this story, and I didn't really like the ending, so I just added another 1,000 words, and I still don't know if I like the ending, because I had this other like really cool, cheesy ending in mind, and I totally changed it.
Oh my god. Yeah. I went with my patented trademark of more than likely having a very disappointing ending.
There you go.
Because that's how I roll. Also, if you all hear background noise, I apologize. We're recording this pretty late, so roommates are home and all that stuff. So I hope that's not going to be too much of a problem as we go on. But yeah, let's get to the stories. I think I will read mine first.
Please do.
Okay, let me pull it up here.
I'm lean back in my chair, get cozy,
get relaxed, get a bottle of cognac, get a 40, get 2, do the Johnny 40 hands.
Oh yeah,
we don't judge here at Impromptu Fiction. We just ask that you pour a glass for us.
There we go.
This is a train wreck. Okay. I'm already looking at the first paragraph of this story, and I'm like, why the fuck did I write this?
I'm so excited.
Okay.
I had a few drinks while I wrote mine, so well, we'll see. Okay.
I think I had like 1 rum and coke, so either I'm a lightweight or alcohol doesn't fix or destroy my writing.
There you go.
All right, I gotta get in character for this. This is a very serious story I'm about to tell you. You may have thought this was going to be a comedy show. I'm about to lay the drama on you.
Ooh.
Okay. My story is called Blitz Bless and the Closed Door. His name was Blitz Bless, and if there was one thing this 7'11" behemoth loved more than kicking ass, he didn't know what it was. No matter the time, no matter the place, you could always find Blitz throwing down in the streets or laying the slam down on some punk asses in the arena. Broken bones and breaking hearts were the only thing he was good at, because along with his ability to fight, Blitz hated commitment. He also hated orange juice. The two weren't connected in any way. He just really fucking hates orange juice. If you offer him a tall glass of OJ, or you're even just sipping some in his vicinity, he's gonna break your bones. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Even if I did, Blitz would just ignore him. That's how much of a fucking badass he was. Ba-da-ba-bow.
Oh, man.
So, anyway, Blitz lived in the bright neon city of Blades and Nades. Why was it called this? Well, to put it simply, the 5-time world champion bandit lord Narxus Bloodbather ran the city, and there were only 2 things he loved more than his poodle: blades and grenades. He tried calling the city Blades and Grenades and other things that might explode, but it didn't really roll off the tongue, hence why you got Blades and Nades. It was a pretty swell place if you thought about it, and as long as you ignored all the crime, the murder, and oh yeah, the patrolling army of killer robots. I'd lie and say that they only killed the bad guys, but really, they just kinda killed anyone. Greg was completely hacked to bits last week, and it was all because he bought a cologne that was too strong. I bet you didn't know that robots had a very sensitive sense of smell, and odors that are too strong drive them nuts. Well, more nuts than they already are. We are talking about killer robots, after all. Now, I bet you're sitting there eating your bacon chips, slurping down your organic meat juice, and thinking to yourself, wow, this story must be about Blitz Bless dealing with the army of killer robots, or wowzers, I hope we get a story about Blitz Bless kicking some thug ass. It's cute that you think that. In fact, most would believe you were in the right for thinking that this is what this story was about. But let me tell you, sorry. I got too into character there.
It's beautiful. I love it.
But let me tell God. That voice, it's like turning me into a monster.
Super macho man.
Yeah, exactly.
Monster.
But let me let you in on a little something that's just between the two of us. I'm a really bad narrator. Nothing I just talked about has anything to do with this story. I'm also a compulsive liar, which just makes all of this even worse. No, we aren't going to talk about Blitz Bless kicking ass. No, we aren't going to talk about some crazy story where he single-handedly took down an entire fleet of killer robots. That happened, by the way, and it was fucking awesome. Not what we're talking about today, though. No, we're talking about the time where Blitz's grandfather, old Strong Arm Bless, opened a door that had been closed for over 20 years. If you don't think that's exciting, you're probably right. But I'm going to tell the story anyway. So just sit there, shut the hell up, and enjoy whatever beverage you have in your hands right now. Just as long as it's not orange juice. This is so dumb.
This is a terrible interruption, but I'm drinking orange juice right now.
Fuck you!
I didn't realize that'd be a part of your story.
I'm not responsible for what happens next. So anyway, our tale begins 3 months ago in the Bless Mansion just outside of the city. It was a massive estate, larger than 3 astroballed fields, and about 3 times the size of a regular Nexelborp woman. In case you aren't getting the In case you aren't getting the picture, Bless Mansion is fucking huge. A true testament to how the rich did things, and there wasn't a family richer in all the land than the Bless family. Well, at one point there was a richer family, but the Bless all did their part and brutally murdered every single last member of that now forgotten family. Well, they didn't kill the dogs, thank goodness, and they didn't really kill the kids, but they sent them off to Dylan Dynamo's space camp, which sounds fun when you hear the name, but let me assure you one thing, it's not. Don't send your kids to Dylan Dynamo's space camp. They'll come back as either a techno-vampire or wereborgs. Don't ask me how it happens, it just does. Being as large as the blessed mansion was, obviously there were tons and tons of rooms inside the dwelling. You had countless bedrooms, a couple dozen bathrooms, and 3 rooms that were just titled Fun Palaces. What happened in the Fun Palaces, you might be asking yourself? Well, the answer is simple, but in order to answer, I have to warn you. If you have any young ones in the room, please cover their ears and eyes so that those little scoundrels can't even read my lips as I say what I'm about to say next. Are they covered? Good. I'll answer then. They were fucking! Oh, by the neon multi-tentacled gods above, they were fucking! Fucking on every inch! Fucking on every surface! The sex that the Bliss family had with other people and machines was unlike anything you'll see in any textbooks. My word, even trying to describe one act would cause you to go blind and numb all at once. No, thank you, sir. I will not be talking about all the dirty, nasty sex that went on behind closed doors. Are we good? Okay, good. All right. You can uncover your ears now. So, as I was saying, when Sebastian and Natalie Bless weren't having their nightly orgy rituals, they were trying to make a comfortable life for their children. Young little Arnold, sweet, caring Sammy, and of course, the little ass-kicker who needs no introduction, Blitz. Mom and Pa Bless wanted to make sure that their children never wanted for anything, never needed anything. They were great parents, loyal parents. They were the talk of the town, the words that were on everyone's lips. Everyone wanted to be just like them. Well, except for the gigantic muscles, most could deal without being that shredded. Fools, if you ask me. The Bless were so popular in and around Blades and Nades that it was absolutely devastating when Sebastian and Natalie both died tragically at the bright young age of 114 and 150, respectively. My word, Sebastian was barely out of high school at that point. What a loss of potential there. And Natalie, such a sweet, bone-breaking lass who only wanted to help people while strangling them. We'll never know creatures as amazing as them. Unless we can find a way to clone them. Now that would be something. In any case, their deaths were 20 years ago, when Blitz was just a young pup. While his older siblings had clear, present memories of their parents, Blitz had nothing. Just blurry faces with smiles wherever he tried to think of the ones who raised him. That's why Strongarm took such a liking to him. That's why Blitz's grandfather bonded with him so quickly. Strongarm knew that Blitz needed a family figure in his life, and by gods, that was going to be Strongarm's job. For the next 20 years, Strongarm taught Blitz how to fight and cuss like the best of them. Blitz's siblings focused on school and art while their younger brother learned the right way to snap ribs, the correct fashion in which you destroy a killer robot high off of cologne fumes. That last lesson was a random one for sure, but it would come in handy more times than either of them would have thought. Yes, Strongarm taught Blitz everything he knew, and in return, Blitz showed his grandfather some new tricks. One was the triple berry drop kick with a lovely gut-pulling finish. Sammy may have known how to paint like a professional, but Blitz was making pristine art with nothing but his fists and violent, unadulterated rage. Just wait until you see one of his victims in an art gallery. Just you wait. Blitz was happy with how life was going for him. Sure, he was living in a dystopian future where everyone and anyone could die from killer robots or poison grass, but Blitz knew how to punch things, and that made him happy. Let the totalitarian government come at him. He'd probably kill 1 or 2 of them before he was mowed down and left to be nothing more than meat chunks on the highway. Blitz was also very skilled at being practical. He didn't reach for the stars. Instead, he reached for a sandwich. Life was good at the Bless Mansion, and while Strongarm left very few rules for the young Bless children, there was one he enforced with an iron fist, because he literally had an iron fist. It was a gift from the war. Thank Commander Blade Nose, you fucking prick, was something Strongarm found himself muttering from time to time. The one rule, the one super important rule, was that no one was ever to open the only door on the 20th floor. You could literally go into any room you wanted to except for that one. Whenever he was prodded for details, Strongarm would just wave his iron hand about and say, meat juice, tongue suppressor, brown gum. Shit, sorry. That was my grocery list for the week. Let me see. Oh yeah, here we go. He'd say, just listen to me, you damn kids. I'm literally giving you 19 floors to explore and have fun with. I'm not even banning you from my room. Go in there, touch my figurines, I don't give a fuck. Just don't go in the room on the 20th floor. Jeez Louise, kids these days. Never listening to their elders, always wanting to listen to that goddamned kitten pop music. The children found it hard to argue with Strongarm's point. They were given 19 floors to mess around in, which meant they easily had over 200 rooms to see. Who cared if one out of 201 rooms was forbidden? They wouldn't even be able to fully explore the mansion without a few years anyway. The place was that huge. Surely one room was more than reasonable to leave undisturbed. Well, that was all fine and dandy for the other children, but Blitz wanted to know what was going on up on the 20th floor. To him, this was a mystery that needed to be solved, and only he could solve it, which was unfortunate because, between you and me, if Blitz was my detective, I just give up on figuring out the mystery before the search began. A kid was great at punching things and breaking bones, not so much with the thinking. That lack of intelligence didn't stop him, though, and instead it just made him more and more stubborn. For the next 20 years, he would stop at nothing to try and get inside that room, and Strongarm would always stop him before he could get to the doorknob. It seemed like Blitz was never going to find out what was beyond the doorframe, and it made him sad. It also made him want to punch things. Then again, most things made Blitz want to go out swinging. The fucking ruthless brat. Blitz was more than ready to give up on his quest when one day, Strongarm pulled him aside after the 400-year-old man just finished ripping the metallic guts out of Mechalorin, the world's strongest robotic vitamin dispenser. With his hands still covered in oily blood and wires, he held his favorite grandson close, or as close as he could. Blitz was so massive at his age that Strongarm could barely wrap his arms around him. What was the boy eating? Oh yeah, that's right, raccoons. Raw raccoons. Still living and squirming raccoons. How's that make you feel? Anyway, during this kind of awkward, messy hug, Strongarm leaned down and whispered into Blitz's ear. I know what you've wanted to see for the past 20 years, and honestly, I'm growing tired of trying to stop you. Seriously, your siblings wised up and just stopped caring about that dumb door, but you just wouldn't give up. Every single day you'd bug me with wanting to see what was in there, trying to sneak in there behind my back. If only I could count how many times I just wanted to reach out and strangle the life out of you, just so I could have some peace of mind back. This long, hateful, yet somewhat sweet rambling went on for about another 40 minutes. Blitz just standing there slack-jawed, not knowing what to say. It was kind of awkward. Really, like showing up at the wrong funeral and yelling at the corpse level of awkward. Anyway, that's a story for another time. So instead of just grinding you up into dust and snorting it, Strongarm continued, sounding dizzy from all the talking, I've decided I'm finally going to show you what's behind the door. Thanks? Blitz responded, still so unsure of what was going on. The only thing he knew for a fact was that he had pissed himself quite a long time ago out of fear. Strongarm was the only person in his life that would... Strongarm was the only person in his life that could terrify him. Oh, and bunnies. Blitz was scared of bunnies. Long story. Think you'd like that, you little punk? Strongarm snapped Blitz back into focus with a meaty punch. Time for all your questions to be answered. You better be excited. Blitz put on a trying smile at this point, which Strongarm took as acceptable. The older man looked back at his downed foe once more before spitting into the dirt. Fucking vitamin bot. That'll teach him not to deny me my needs. Grandpa, you just asked him for chocolate. My needs! Strongarm belched out before grabbing Blitz by the arm, dragging him off down the road and towards Bless Manor. Now, it should go without saying that the Bless Mansion was kept absolutely spotless. No room was left dirty. No dust seemed to collect on any surface. The entire estate was about as clean could be, except when it came to the 20th floor. Here the wood that built this house was moldy and weak, creaking underneath every step Strongarm and Blitz took. The walls were bland, shredded up pieces of wallpaper here and there in splotches. Nothing was hung from the walls, no picture or art. There wasn't even a window in the cold, damp hallway. There was just the door at the end of it all, and all the secrets that lie behind it. It appeared as if the entire floor hadn't been cleaned in centuries, and that assumption was probably not too far off from the truth. Blitz looked about as if the entire place still made him uneasy even after all the times he ended up here. Strongarm? He looked as if nothing was out of place, as if he were more at home in the dirt than in the clean castle below. Few words were muttered between the two, and the ones that were are unknown even to this day. Let's just assume that they talked about theater, or even finger painting. I'm sure Blitz had a few thoughts on finger painting, I think. Well, Strongarm would grumble between his teeth, his trembling hand pressed against the rusty bronze doorknob of the door. Here we are. All your questions shall be answered. He moved his free hand about, dangling the fingers like he was casting a spell. Ooh, what amazement lies behind this door. One could only guess. As soon as those last words passed his lips, he was deadly serious once more, twisting the knob and pushing forward. Blitz had to cover his eyes from the blinding light. His heart began to pound hard against his chest. He could swear he heard angels singing all around him as the door opened wider and wider. This was it. This was his moment. He would finally figure out what was behind the door that had tormented him for so many years. Now, I'm going to let you take a moment to really think about what was behind this door. Could it be an ancient library? This story was supposed to be about a dystopian future. Maybe the writer finally remembered that and did something with it. Maybe there was a way to destroy all the killer robots, all the members of the evil government regime. Hell, maybe there was just a spa in there, a place for Strongarm to just sit back and relax as all the cares drained away. Well, it was none of those things. Like I said at the beginning, this ain't some high-action, gut-wrenching story. We'll save those for another day. No, there weren't no secrets to world peace behind his decaying door. There wasn't a way to bring back the normal life we humans used to have. None of that. What was behind this door was truly something else, something extraordinary, provided you were really into things like Strongarm was. This room, this secret room that none were allowed to walk... let me read that one again. This room, this secret room that none were allowed to walk in except for Strongarm, was filled with mannequins of all shapes and sizes, wearing what looked to be full-body underwear. The fabric came in all sizes, colors, and patterns, and Blitz had to admit they looked trendy as hell. He looked about in confusing bewilderment while Strongarm just leaned against the door, acting as if none of this was a big deal. Grandpa, what is all of this? Blitz finally managed to get out, his eyes still roaming the entire room. Ever since I was young, I've had this passion to create, Strongarm called out, moving from his spot against the doorframe. I know it's not common for us blessed to want to create, but by the gods, that's what I've wanted to do since I was a little pup. I just don't want to be known as the old man that kills things recklessly, or the grandfather who taught his sweet grandchildren how to properly gut a man who owes you more than $100. He patted one of the still mannequins, his eyes studying the fabric. I want it to create, and more importantly, I want it to create clothing. Comfortable clothing. Clothing that could keep you warm at night, protect it from the elements. More importantly, I wanted to do it so that there weren't dozens of layers one would have to put on to feel warm. I just wanted one layer, one singular layer to keep us all cozy in the winter. Hence, I made what I like to call long underwear. He stood there as if presenting a new card to a lucky contestant on the game show, Win or We Kill You. When he mentioned... when he notioned Blitz... No, it was noticed. Why did I stumble the first time? When he noticed Blitz wasn't as excited as he was, Strongarm raised an eyebrow. What's wrong, boy? Huh? Nothing. Nothing at all. 'Cause it seems like there's a lot wrong going in those eyes of yours. Well, it's just that... Spit it out. It's just that pajamas are already a thing. There was a moment of tense silence. I'll allow you, the listener, to take a sip of your chunky meat broth at this time. Pajamas? Yeah, how do you not know about pajamas? The old man was stunned, having to stumble backwards until his body pressed against his old wooden desk. I don't believe it. I wasted all this time when the thing of my dreams was already out there, ready for me to take it in. I don't believe it. Blitz looked down at the ground. I'm sorry, Grandpa. I didn't mean to crush your dreams like that. Strongarm whimpered for a moment before standing up straight, lighting one of the mannequins on fire. Oh well, he shrugged, lighting a second. What can you do but start from scratch, right? A third was lit, the room beginning to grow really hot. But what about start from scratch, boy? Was all Strongarm yelled out as the room was engulfed in flames. They'd soon leave and head out the front door of Bless Manor, where they would watch the building burn away with everyone else inside. Now, you're probably sitting there wondering what the moral of this story is. What was the point of it all? And well, it's actually kind of simple, really. Never, ever have dreams or goals. And if you do find yourself with them, quickly get rid of them, because someone else has already done what you've wanted to do. Best not to waste time and create when you can just sit back and do nothing instead. The end.
Beautiful. That was... Wow. I thought he was gonna have created Meat Pants, but, I was just taken for a ride there.
That is the best compliment I could ask for from this story.
It felt like something like Borderlands meets... I don't even know.
I don't know either. I don't know what I was thinking.
It was magical.
It's funny because
and I loved it.
It's because this prompt, because I've written a couple of the other episodes out already, and this one was the hardest for me, and I think that's why I barely mention anything that's dystopian.
Right.
Because I wrote all of this shit out, and then I was like, crap, I need to have something dystopian in here. Okay, killer robots, totalitarian government. That's it.
Yeah, there you go. That's basically all you need.
That's all I need.
Yeah, no. I thought it was great.
I'm basically saying that this story was the next Blade Runner. I'm just saying.
There you go.
All right, so that was my tale of a dystopian story about a grandpa opening up a door. What was yours, Pacific?
Well, wouldn't you like to know?
I would. That's the point of this show.
and fortunately, I have it right here.
Oh,
what a crazy coincidence.
Oh my god, what?
Oh my god.
You have your script, because I just read mine completely from my mind.
Oh boy, are you ready?
Oh shucks, I sure am ready.
Well, alright. As Rick Sanchez would say, it's time to get riggedy wrecked!
I will take that as a yes, I understand that reference.
In my terrible Rick Sanchez impersonation.
What the fuck is Rick Sanchez?
From Rick and Morty?
Oh
my god.
Oh.
Blade.
Oh my, okay.
Riggedy wrecked!
Okay. I just had a brain fart. Holy shit. I was sitting here oh my god, because my first thought was, wait, is Pacific into wrestling?
Oh god.
I had so much respect for you.
No, I was just illegally watching episode 2 of season 2.
Shit, just so we can get this out here, Impromptu Fiction does not endorse the actions of Pacific Obadiah.
Absolutely not. Anyways, on a totally unrelated note.
Yes.
My story is called The End of Happiness.
Oh my god.
Dun, dun. Alright, so, yeah, it's a thing. Alright, let's do this.
We're gonna put that on the back of the Impromptu Fiction book. Just Pacific Obadiah. It's a thing.
Yeah. Alright, here we go. It's been 40 years since happiness was outlawed. I wasn't born when it happened, and our gray and bleak world is all I've ever known, and it always felt like home. But my grandpa, he would tell me stories about the old world, and it always brought me joy to hear them. It was our little secret, our little piece of happiness. As Grandpa told me, it wasn't long after the happiness ban that the joyful things in life were taken away one by one. First it was the arts. It wasn't immediate, it was slow. First, comedic plays and movies were outlawed. It took some adjusting to, but living in a world without comedy was doable, Grandpa said. But soon, they took away dramas too, because it was evaluated that any play that made you feel better about your current situation was just as joyful as a comedic play. So, theaters were shut down for everyone. Then art museums closed, and artists were routinely brought in by the government for reprogramming, slowly stripping them away of their joy and brainwashing them to focus on more mundane tasks, like paperwork. I heard that really bad artists, the ones who wouldn't give up art no matter how much they'd been reprogrammed, well, those were the ones that were sent to labor jobs, generating energy via large hand cranks and pulleys, or coal mining, stuff that strips joy from you. After arts came the colors. Buildings were all painted to be a beautiful national concrete gray that they are now, and over time, architecturally unique buildings were torn down and replaced by large concrete squares to match the other large concrete squares. I can still remember the first story that my grandpa told me about the olden days. I can still remember his smile. He said, "Oh, I remember. Oh boy, I remember. I had this building. It was my favorite. It was this gorgeous little red and white brick house, and it sat at the end of my street, and I'd pass it on my way to work every day. I liked it so much because, quite frankly, it shouldn't have existed. I just lost my spot. I don't know how this little home didn't come toppling down all on its own. The second story was twice as long as the first, with the majority of it hanging off the side. And I remember, oh boy, it used to be held up by this little wooden plank that was stuck in the ground, holding up this poor malformed house. And don't even get me started on the third story. It looked like a game of Tetris gone wrong." "What's Tetris?" I asked, and I almost wish I hadn't. I immediately saw his smile drop, and he lowered his eyes. My grandpa cleared his throat. "It was this video game, something you did for fun when you got bored. You'd stack colorful blocks." Wow! I was blown away by the idea that you did something for fun when you got bored. Playing with colored blocks? Oh my gosh! That sounded incredible! Much better than staring at a corner or reading the stern-faced manifesto again. I could only read the manifesto so many times before it got taken away. I guess Queen Tiffany didn't want anyone taking pleasure in reading. I asked my grandpa to know more about the colored blocks, and I told him I couldn't wait to tell my school friends. But he hushed me, and he told me that no, this was our little secret. I felt safe with my grandpa. His habitation unit became my home away from home. Or my habitation unit away from my habitation unit. Our little secrets grew into many more little secrets over the years. But unfortunately, I only saw my grandpa every 6 months. Once for the mandatory family congregation day, and again on the optional visitation of elderly role model day. My parents would often go in and stare at different corners of my grandpa's habitation unit, ensuring proper maintenance of all 90-degree angles and ensuring that there are no variables in the national shade of dull gray. It was, after all, their civic duty. But while my parents were inspecting the house, my grandpa would take me off to another room and tell me stories. My parents never asked what my grandpa and I did while they were inspecting this domicile. And when I was younger, I thought that my grandpa and I were really clever. But now that I'm older, I'm pretty sure they knew all along. See, when I was about 14, on optional visitation of elderly role model day, I was at my grandpa's house. My parents had just dropped me off as they were preparing for their monthly taxation and wanted to ensure that they had triple copies of all their receipts and transactions. It was the first time that my grandpa and I were actually really alone, and I was super excited. I thought that this would be finally the day that I could ask any question I wanted and learn about all the colors. But, just like the national standard, I was sorely disappointed. When I got inside, my grandpa was really tired, and he wouldn't get out of bed. So I sat by his bedside for a while, and he would talk to me, but anytime I asked about colors or the past, he would just brush off real quickly and change the topic. When I asked him why he didn't want to talk about the past, he just said that he was too tired to try and recall the past. That made sense to me, so I just dropped it. When we started talking about other world events, like, the newest edition of Stern-Faced's Manifesto and whatnot. But as we did, I noticed my grandpa would occasionally wince as he shifted in bed. And I asked him what was wrong, and my grandpa said it just came from being old and achy. I feel dumb now. But at the time, I just dropped it. I was too young and too naive to connect the dots between his so-called ache and reluctance to talk about the past. Now I know that he was probably brutally beaten by these scary killer robots that hate cologne. Oh gosh, I lost my spot again. I should put space.
Damn it, Pacific!
I know. We chatted for a little while longer, and I told him that I hadn't had my second meal yet. It was getting pretty close to the end of the second meal window, so I quickly rushed off to the kitchen and into the pantry. As we all had the same mandatory nutritional items, I knew he'd have my favorite granulated sugar-coated wheat squares and 2% bovine-produced dairy. I grabbed the dairy from the fridge and went to my grandpa's pantry for the cereal. Wheat squares. Now, I remember thinking at the time how much I hated pantries. They never had light fixtures in them, so they were impossible to navigate at night. Fortunately, the light from the kitchen helped illuminate the small food closet. But even in the dim light, I was taken aback when I saw the disorder of the state of Grandpa's pantry. None of his nutritional items were where they belonged. The canned supplements were all over the third shelf instead of the second. The glassware was scattered along the first and second shelf, and I finally found the wheat squares. They weren't in their government-mandated box, but rather a plastic bag. I was stunned. So I decided to reorganize everything for my grandpa. He was getting old, and I'm sure it was just innocent misplacement, nothing I had to report him for. But man, there sure was a lot of misplacement. After I finished reorganizing everything, I had my second meal. Even though it was 12 minutes past the second meal 2-hour window. Don't tell anyone. When I finally was replacing the wheat squares, now properly in their box, back into the pantry, that's when I noticed a small wooden door. No bigger than 2.5 feet high, hidden in one of the corners of the room. The door had been painted in the national mandatory shade of gray, but it didn't have a handle. Just a hole where the handle should go. I tried pulling at the door and prying around all of the edges, but it wouldn't budge. How could I have missed this? I'd never seen this in any of the other habitation floor plans. I rushed back to my grandpa's room, but he was asleep. I lightly shook him, waking him, asking about the strange door I found in his pantry, as I'd never seen it before. His eyes widened, and he lifted his head off the pillow before asking, "You didn't open it, did you?" I told him I hadn't, as the door handle was missing, and he dropped his head back onto the pillow. "Listen, grandchild number 3, behind that door is my biggest secret. It makes all the little secrets we've shared look like nothing. I want to show you, just not yet, okay?" Despite my curiosity, my grandpa had a higher social status than I, and I was civically compelled to follow his instructions. So I gave him an affirmative gesture, using my middle finger, and even though I did want to question his big secret, I couldn't, because a moment later, there was the standard 3 knocks at the front door. That meant my parents were there to come take me home, as optional visitation of elderly role model day was coming to a close. I said goodbye to my grandpa and headed home. When my parental units asked what my grandpa and I had done that day, I didn't tell them about the secret door I found. And, as I worried that it might get my grandpa in trouble. After that year, my parents stopped taking me to optional visitation of Elderly Role Model Day. I'd still see my grandpa on mandatory family congregation day, but I never got a moment alone with him. My parents would always stay in the room with me, no longer inspecting corners and ensuring national shades of dull gray. So my grandpa would refrain from telling me stories. Then, when I had turned 20, it had been 6 years since I'd first discovered the small wooden door, and now I wanted to know what lay behind it. I was now eligible to move out of my parents' habitation unit and into my own, with a floor plan of my choice. No big deal. And I could now visit my grandpa on my own on the next optional visitation of Elderly Role Model Day. I seriously doubt that my parents would let me visit him. I seriously doubt that my parents would visit him, as they seem to have excommunicated my grandpa over the last few years. But optional visitation of Elderly Role Model Day was just another 4 months away, so I did my best to distract myself, waiting for optional visitation of Elderly Role Model Day. I went to my newly assigned job. I was a paper pusher. It was a pretty lush job, a job that quite a lot of people envied. Oh god, I keep losing my spot. Here we go. A job that quite a lot of people envied. And I'd only reached it through being perfectly average, never scoring too highly and never scoring too lowly, and scoring slightly over 80%, as to not have a perfect 80, all throughout school. My day-to-day involved sitting behind an office from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m., reading over papers, reports, and propagandist literature, approving or denying them for public release, and then writing a digital summary of each paper I approved. I then printed my summary and handed it to another paper pusher so that they too could catalog and approve it. I did this for 12 hours a day, with a 1-hour mandatory lunch break, every day for 4 months. And finally, before I knew it, it was my favorite holiday of the year. Optional visitation of Elderly Role Model Day! I was overly excited. I could feel my gut turning upside down. Oh, I couldn't wait to learn about the secrets behind the small door. Honestly, I stayed up almost the entire night thinking about what might be behind it. I know it sounds childish, but I hope that perhaps it'd be a game with colorful blocks, or perhaps paint. I'd always wanted to play with colors, and the idea of covering gray walls with colors seemed absurd. Finally, the day came, and I struggled to keep a smile forming on my face. Oh, my sneer was wide, as ordered by the mandatory clause. After waiting all morning for the official hours of optional visitation of Elderly Role Model Day to begin, I headed over to my grandpa's house, giving the standard 3 knocks, and awaited his invitation inside. Over the years, my grandpa had grown frail, but it took him a few minutes to get from the bedroom door or living room to answer the door. So I waited patiently, and after moments, the door didn't open. But I heard a soft voice inside saying, "Come in." I frowned, as this wasn't standard at all, but after glancing around to ensure that no one else watched, I entered. My grandpa was lying in bed, and he smiled at me, and I smiled back at him. "It's been a while since I had a visitor on optional visitation of Elderly Role Model Day. I wasn't sure if you'd come," he said. "Of course I would, Grandpa." "Okay, I know I just got here, but I've been meaning to ask. It's been on my mind for 6 years. What's behind the door in your pantry?" I got butterflies in my stomachs. Seconds seemed to take minutes, hours to pass, as I sat eagerly awaiting my grandpa's next words. But for the second time in my life, I saw my grandpa's smile fade into a frown. "If that's all you want to talk about, perhaps you should leave. Grandchild number 3, when you were young, I loved to tell you stories about the past. But I've grown up over these years, and I wish you had too. Forget these things, grandchild number 3. It was painful, so I left. What hurt most wasn't that Grandpa... Not only had my grandpa, a person who had brought much joy to my life in the form of little secrets, turned me away, but I was crushed by the lack of answers, of revelation. And on my favorite holiday, optional visitation of elderly role model day, I pondered rushing into the pantry and just prying the door open, but I knew it wouldn't budge. Not without a doorknob. So I forgot about it. I pushed all of my childhood memories out of my head, and I did my best to forget about colorful blocks and paint. Stupid paints. And it worked. I focused on my job, on my papers, and the next optional visitation of Elderly Role Models Day came and passed without me leaving my home. I had excommunicated my grandpa just like my parents had. And then, one day, while I was in the middle of writing a summary, summarizing a summary of a report, summarizing a summary on a report of a decreased living room in new habitation units, the phone on my desk rang. It had been the first time my phone had ever rang. It was strictly for emergencies of the highest variety. My heart started to race. Everyone in the office froze and turned to look towards me. I picked up the receiver. It was my motherly parental unit's voice. Your grandfather has become severely ill, and it is estimated he will die within 72 hours. I thought you might like to visit him. I immediately walked at a mandatory pace of 1 footstep per second to my boss's office, and informed him of the pending death in my family. So I spent the rest of my working day filling out time off request forms so that I may have a few hours off the next day. When I woke the next day, I immediately headed towards my grandpa's house. My parents weren't there, as I had assumed, and I knocked twice, totally forgetting about the standard 3 knocks. And then I just rushed inside. My grandpa was in his bedroom, lying in bed, as you do in a bedroom, and he barely looked awake. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized this is the first time ever he didn't smile when I entered the room. How rude. I pulled up a chair to his bedside and said, "Listen, Grandpa, I'm sorry that I..." But he cut me off. My grandpa reached under the sheets of his bed and pulled out a doorknob and handed it to me. I felt my heart leap. I was overwhelmed. It wasn't even it wasn't even optional visitation of Elderly Role Model Day, but this day was my new favorite day. The 3rd day of the 8th month of the 700th year of our new empire. So I took the doorknob, and I rushed to the pantry. I opened the door. The light was, of course, dim inside the small food closet. So I reached out a hand, and I pressed against the wall. It had been 7 years since I'd first discovered that door. I was eager to find what was on the other side, but as I reached around, I didn't feel the wood or the door handle hole. No, there was no door here whatsoever. The door was gone. I spent the rest of the day with my grandpa, knowing very well that this would be the last time I saw him. Kind of peeved that he kept calling me grandchild unit number 4, even though I was number 3. Eventually I left. This was now the 2nd time my grandpa had crushed my dreams. I returned home that night. The moment I walked in my door, I realized that I was famished. I had skipped both 2nd and 3rd meals of the day. I didn't bother to turn on my house lights. I was exhausted by the long day and lack of food. I just shuffled towards my kitchen pantry to grab some of my favorite delectable wheat squares. Just as I grabbed the box, I noticed a shadow out of the corner of my eye. It was a small, dark patch, about 2.5 feet high, with a small hole in the middle of the right side. I blinked. I rubbed my eyes, and I started feeling a lot more alert. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the brass doorknob. And I slipped it into the hole and turned it until I felt it click. I cracked open the door, and behind it was nothing. It was just a small little concrete room. But there, sitting in the middle of this small little concrete room, was a button. And I pressed it. And from the button came flowing colors, hundreds and thousands of 5 different beautiful colors. And that's how I became an artist. And that's why I started painting. And that's why I want to bring joy back into the world. Bullshit, said the police officer. I just smiled. I knew he couldn't take my joy. So I thought. Because that's when he sentenced me to a lifelong solitude of 114 years in the coal mines. But at least I had some colors. Red, blue, green, and purple. I was then informed that I'm colorblind. The end.
Oh my god. Okay, so I didn't want you to think I was being quiet because I wasn't interested. I was quiet because you were like, you actually fucking enthralled me. I was just like, I made a bullshit story and you like actually made art.
I don't know if I'd call this art.
Well, I fucking loved it. That's all that matters.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, so like I mentioned, originally this had a totally different ending. Originally, the grandpa's going to open the door, and inside was going to be water balloons. And I had this cute scene written about how the main character, grandchild number 3, would go out and start a water balloon fight, and it was great. And then everyone got happy, and then they went and overthrowed Queen Tiffany. But then I decided to just make him a little crazy, and then I decided to take his colors that he loved and just kind of rip those away from him, because that's how you know it's good art, when the character gets none of what they want.
Hell yeah, exactly. See, we both had stories about people not getting what they want.
Absolutely.
Don't follow your dreams, kids.
Don't follow your dreams, and creating is for chumps.
All right, so what did you think about your time in Impromptu Fiction Thunderdome? That's what I'm calling it now, by the way. It's probably going to change in the next episode, but that's what I'm calling it.
Whatever. Solid 11 out of 10. Would Thunderdome Impromptu again?
Would pet again. 12 out of 25. It was okay. Just kidding. Hey, Pacific, before I let you go, why don't you let the lovely people at home know where they can find your work?
The internet?
Good job. Okay, everybody, go to www.theinternet.org.
Thank you. You can check out midnightdisease.net. And there you can find Lake Clarity Season 1, Lake Clarity Season 2, even though the page is empty. There's a cool little 3 seconds of static that you can download and listen to. I promise you. Very important for Season 2. If you invest in Lake Clarity, listen to that static. midnightdisease.net, fakecrafters.net, Facebook, Twitter, your favorite podcast provider. We're out there.
And I will be putting all of those links and more in the show notes below. Pacific, I just want to say thank you so much for being in the inaugural episode of Impromptu Fiction. And
thank you for having me.
As soon as I get through the long list of people, I want you back on again.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Sorry my story was so grim. I realized as I was reading, I was like, Lane went totally comedic, and I wanted to go comedic, and I just...
Hey, you know what? It's stream of consciousness, baby. We don't know where the keyboard takes us.
True.
That's part of it.
Well, yeah, it was a blast. It was a blast being here, Lane. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I look forward to next time, where I'm sure we'll write about something cool like Queen Tiffany.
Yes, I want to know more about Queen Tiffany. Okay, so your next writing prompt is, what does that jerk Queen Tiffany get? What's her comeuppance? I need to know.
What's her comeuppance? Yeah. She had a really bad muffin one day.
Oh, get the fuck out of
her
here.
Barista
Never
was
mind.
Mean and just...
Never mind. You're not allowed on the show anymore.
She decided to take all joy from the world. It's those baristas, man. Baristas will ruin the world.
Fuck. No, stop. I made a joke about meat pants, but that's unexcusable.
Muffins, man. Muffins are a dangerous game. Muffins and baristas and hipsters.
All right, so take that lesson from Pacific. Take that from Pacific.
Yes, from me. From me to few.
Oh my god. All right, let's get the fuck out of here, you crazy cat. Hey everyone, I'm recording this one a little bit after the show, so I hope you don't notice too much of an audio difference. I'd like to thank you all for listening, and I would also love to thank my amazing, incredible friend Pacific for being on my first episode. It was a real treat. I had a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to have him on again. Thank you for... I know I already thanked you for listening, but really thank you again, because I have wanted to do this podcast for the longest time, and finally being able to do it and having such an amazing group of writers come on. I can't wait for you to hear the rest of the stories, and hell, I can't even wait to get back into recording them, because it has been such a treat to deal with these writers. And I hope that they had fun dealing with me too. So if you would like to follow the show, we just recently made a Twitter. It is at Impromptu Fic. There you can keep up to date with the episodes, when they're released, kind of behind the scenes stuff, and all that good stuff. If you are a writer and you would like to be on the show, or even if you just have an idea for a writing prompt or a style to write the stories in, you can send an email to impromptufiction@gmail.com. Just, put prompt or that you want to be a writer in the headline, and we'll try to get you on the show if we can. We are kind of booked up for the next couple months. It kind of depends on how quickly I can get people into the recording aspect of this show, but we're pretty full until, I want to say, late September, early October, but that by no means means that you can't sign up or try and get in. I am more than welcome to the idea of bringing more writers in, because this show kind of depends on writers wanting to participate. So yeah, that's impromptufiction@gmail.com. I'll leave the email in the show notes below, just in case I misspoke and I didn't give out the right email address, because that's happened before. If you'd like to hear more of my voice during the week, I have another show called Sable. I got into trying to explain what the show is, because a lot of people misconstrued that it's a full-on audio drama with like other actors and no descriptions, but it is more of an audio book where each episode is a chapter, and it's just me narrating. So it's a single narrative podcast, which I totally get if that's not your thing, but I'm kind of assuming that if you like this show, if you've enjoyed this show, that you're going to like Impromptu, that you're going to like the show you just listened to, that you're going to like Sable. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, that you can find that in the show notes below, as well as everywhere that you can find my man Pacific. He does a lot of work, and I'm impressed and a little jealous. I wish I had the sense of productivity that he did. I don't even know if that was the right word that I wanted to use, but anyway, we're going to go with it. So that's going to do it for us here this week on Impromptu Fiction. Please come by next week for more silly antics, and until then, keep writing, write what you love, and above all, have fun. Peace.